I just leave it on. Yeah, that's how I do mine, I guess. And dual C cable. So I plug it in here and I plug it into my battery to charge the phone. But the phone is for just battery instead.
Gotta change that.
Must put the cord on backwards.
Yeah.
I think I'm the only one that like keeps it on the whole. No.
One's a charging it, one's a non-charging it.
Maybe. Still trying to figure that out. Trying to find a preference on my phone. but I can't find it.
Did you get a green light? Okay, good.
There it goes. Just took a second.
Kid candy store.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Is anybody here for public forum? Seeing none, we'll continue with the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Change order number one. Is that for Brett?
Yeah, Brett's not gonna be here.
Oh, okay.
I did talk to him earlier today. The one thing that I did see in that change order was the number 4, City of Harmony curb patching. So that was a couple spots that we had patched that needed it. Basically, Brett said, go ahead and approve change order 1 as it is. And then he sent an email to Wix Construction, who did the work for those, and he'll back it out later, and we'll just write the check to Wix for that 3,700. That way we don't put it on the bond. And that was my thought anyway. Even though it's only 3,700, but it's kind of stuff we had to do anyway. If that makes sense to everybody.
Is that, yeah, I'm just wondering if we need to approve that separately than the pay request.
Well, we might need to do it separately to pay Wix, but he wants us to approve the change order as is. And then he'll back it out and change it next month
Okay.
on his end for that. But we can make a separate motion to pay Wix the 3,700. You want to do it that way?
That's different from the 46,2750 on the.
That would be, because that 37 would come off of that,
Okay.
which that would be reflected next month in all the bills, because it's, my understanding of this is it's already in the work layout. So,
It's already in pay request 5, that amount, yes.
yeah, it's in this, and it's in the revised contract amount too. So it all has to be changed.
Yep.
But we can do the two things.
And he did say he was not gonna add it on as an assessment. He was gonna make sure that
Correct.
part never got added on.
Anyway, but if we can keep our bond a little bit cheaper, I guess. Granted, it's only 3,700, but we probably have the money to,
I think we already have the bond. We already have the money.
we do have the bond money, so. Yeah, because we do have that,
It's on interest.
yes.
Last month we were talking about delays by a couple of weeks. Is that what's
Well,
the progress on that?
So we're, obviously you see they started Blacktop on Monday. I did not ask him about what we tabled last month. I'm guessing we'll address that in November because I forgot about it when I was talking to him. So we'll just until November, I guess.
Okay.
As it's not on the agenda anyway, so.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to approve change order number 1.
I'll second.
Motion and second, any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. And I'll make a motion to pay request number 5.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
So Steve, what I would say is that because that pay request is in there for that 4,600, if we just do where we pay Wix 37 of that right to Wix out of the, I don't know how you want to, if you want to change your motion or do that, we might as well do
I'll
it.
amend the motion
Yeah.
to subtract 3,700 from this 238,693.
And just pay it directly to Wix or however, if you want a separate motion. for
Amend
that.
my motion for that. Who seconded?
Yep. That's good.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And just check with Brett before you.
He sent the email to Wix,
Good, okay.
reference that.
All right. At this time, we'll open a public hearing to certify the street assessment.
No,
No?
we're gonna pass a resolution to do that.
Oh.
To set
Set it
it,
for next month. Yep.
Okay.
we're gonna set a public hearing for next
Oh,
month.
For,
That resolution is in the packet now, an updated one.
Yes. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 24-13.
Second.
motion and a second to approve resolution 2413. That's resolution for the hearing on proposed assessment,
On November 12th.
November 12th.
That's a regular council meeting at 7.
7 PM.
And is this sent to everybody affected, like a letter?
Yes.
Published in the newspaper and mailed to all the property owners.
Okay, hearing no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. All right. Dust control.
Well, it's not really dust control. It's with dust control.
Control.
I did have a chance to talk with Terry about this. So it's a burnisher. So what it does is it heats up the wax and it puts basically a new finish on the floor. The theory behind it is that your wax will last longer, so you won't have to strip as often, and it's less wear and tear on the other pieces of equipment. He would use it both here and at the visitor center, collaboratively. And then obviously you wouldn't have to wax as often. It's kind of the theory behind it. The dust control is, it does take a little layer of wax off, so it keeps that dust within it.
Yeah, I was thinking the way the floors look, I thought we had one of those.
Yeah.
We don't.
It's shiny.
He does. He does a good job that way, so. I'll make a motion to purchase the burnisher.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second to purchase the burnisher. Where's the price on that?
It's towards the top.
It's also on the cover sheet too.
28, 23, 54.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. New ambulance.
New ambulance. So our current one, I believe, is a 2021, 2022, somewhere in there. This one, The reason for it's earlier than normal would be because it's 3 years out, just like fire trucks and everything else. Obviously, the cost has went up significantly. You're looking at, with the trade, which hopefully the trade is more than 100,000, which is all they can put in their bid packet from Lifeline. What is it, 250, get to the bottom of this.
250.
258.90, 927. That's with that $100,000. So be 300,000. Yeah, 20. It says 2024 or 2020, but I think it's 21.
And so this is a trade-in. We're gonna trade ours in. And
We typically do trade it in. They usually have it sold. They sell it for us, type of deal. This isn't uncommon. We try to rotate ambulances every 4 years. So with that in mind, next year would be technically the year that we would trade. Now we're going to be out 3 more. So we're going to have, this current one has like 65,000 miles on it. So we'll be well over 100, which is not typical for us, but we've had a lot more runs in the last 3-4 years.
do we do any sort of warranty that's all encompassing? How does that work?
They warranty it for a period of time. We've had warranty work done on this. The chassis is warranted through the manufacturer, just like regular vehicles are. So
You know, one of the first pages was showing it's like 3 years on paint and 4 years on
it's kind of a standard.
engine.
Sam did mention that the ambulance service has been putting dollars away every year to purchase the new ambulance, so it's not going to require any levy dollars or additional city dollars to make the purchase.
So it's all within their budget.
It's all within their fund.
Their fund.
Or-
Yep.
In their fund, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the new ambulance.
I'll second. Any further discussion on the new ambulance purchase? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The trailer sale. Well, I was at the Lions meeting last night, the board meeting. The board recommended to the Lions membership to accept the trailer if the city gives it to us. Another option would be just to leave it with the city, but basically give it to the Lions to use it for city parades, or if the chamber wanted to use it, or the Lions were going to use it. But either way, the Lions, the Lions Club does have insurance on vehicles through the organization. So that wouldn't be an issue. Owning it wouldn't be an issue. They are unresolved as to where they would store it. But they're thinking of getting a cover made for it, so it could be stored outside.
So what am I missing here, Steve? We sent that out for sealed bids.
We did. So we did get 3 bids in. One for $500, one for $1,225, and then one for $2,110. So now we need to make the choice of if we are going to accept one of these, or if we're not getting what it's worth, then we can choose. We can.
And I can give you some history because I'm on the Community Foundation, the treasurer there, and of course I'm on the Lions Club too. So the thought of putting it out for bids was because the chamber wasn't gonna use it. So, why is the city gonna have this sitting in storage and nobody's using it? The chamber got it through a grant from the Community Foundation. So the Community Foundation had granted $7,000. They spent most of that, about $3,700, I think was the purchase price. And then they had Solberg's do
Okay.
over a couple thousand of modifications, some welding, and a bracket to put on top to work as a float. So, because it wasn't getting used by the chamber, we at the Community Foundation requested that the city sell it and donate the money back to the Community Foundation, because the city hasn't spent any money on the trailer other than registration.
Correct.
So now the request from the Lions Club and the Community Foundation is on board with that too. They discussed it at our meeting, that if the Lions will take it on, they're okay with that. And we'll see if something can happen this time. If nothing happens, then we may try to sell it again. But,
So they wouldn't pay for it.
what's that?
They wouldn't pay for it. They're just gonna
Right.
take it.
They wouldn't pay the community fund for it. In fact, they might ask the community fund for a little money to finish it. But they have their own budget. They have their own money too, so they could do it on their own.
And
So I would make a motion to not accept the bids, the high bid or any of them. And also to either allow the Lions to use it or outright gift it to them or give it to them.
I'll second.
Okay. But I had an or in there. So whether we're going to gift it to them or if we're going to just let them use it and leave it as city property.
I guess I would like to see it gifted to them and not be city property.
Okay.
Then it's not our
Problem.
Stored somewhere on city property.
Just not stored on city.
Yeah, not stored on city
Shop.
property.
We don't have we're struggling for,
We're starting for
Yeah,
storage at
space.
times now. Well, especially since we get a new piece of equipment.
Okay. So I'd amend my motion to gift the trailer to the Lions Club. And you agree with the amendment?
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion on the trailer? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote to gift the trailer to the Lions Club. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. One note on that, they will have to accept it at their general membership meeting.
Which is a month from now,
13 days.
13 days from now. Okay.
All right, street signs.
so it was, there was a recent accident on Third Street and I kind of just put this into motion again.
It was Third Street and First
First
Avenue. Southeast.
Correct, yes. So I did get a quote for the possibility of adding either some stop signs on Third Avenue, or Third Street, sorry, Third Street.
This was a suggestion.
It was a, s-
Police or our deputy.
It was one of the-
yeah,
What?
yes,
Yeah,
it
that's
was. So I did get a couple quotes, just to get some pricing. So it looks like the intersections that would need them are 2 on First Ave, 2 on Second Ave, 2 on Third Ave, 1 on Fourth Ave, 2 on Fifth Ave and 1 on Seventh Ave, so that would be a total of 10. Yield signs are a little bit more expensive if we went that route. I was asked to get quotes for both. Those are $75 a piece versus stop signs at $44 a piece. So for the signs, and they recommend putting in these anchors and then the posts. For yield signs, it's going to cost us just for the signs and the posts just over $1,500. Now, stop signs, it's going to be about $1,200. And again, that includes the signs, the anchors, and the posts. So again, just kind of opening up the discussion on this. I know that you guys have talked about it, I'm sure many times. But
Council has this.
there we go.
Was the
No.
recommendation specifically on stop or yield signs?
Something. He didn't.
Regulate.
So we
Yeah.
have the whole southeast side of Harmony, south of Center Street is on controlled intersections east of Main Street. There isn't a controlled intersection down there.
Just so. And that's on Center Street.
Yeah, everything off of Center Street is
Yes.
uncontrolled. We typically have an accident or two a year on First and Second Avenue, Southeast and Third Street. I'd have to pull the numbers to get specific on that, but I know there's usually one or two. The fear that I have by controlling all the intersections on Third Street, we've had complaints about the speed on Third Street going in and out. So if you can now control all of the avenues coming into Third Street, everybody knows if they're going to stop or yield, they're already not yielding. So does it fix our problem? I don't know. Stopping, I think, will increase some speeds possibly. Not that we can't resolve that with some enforcement probably, but I just know that.
I remember back when we installed the stop signs on First Avenue and Center Street, and that was after a pretty severe accident. And there had been a couple at that intersection before that. And one of the individuals involved in that accident or the family, asked council to do something. So at that time, they did do the stop sign there. The talk I've heard previous to this is that it's where do you stop regulating? You don't want yield and stop signs everywhere.
So
unnecessary, but
No, absolutely. And maybe it's something we start with First and Second Avenue and Third Street. Those are your kind of the two that go right out to 52.
Yep.
Or come in from 52, I should say, either way. And see what reaction or reception we get from those. We can always push them out further as we need to, or you could go to four-way stops too. I mean, you can do all of that, but I guess my recommendation would be just to start with stop signs controlling First and Second Avenue on Third Street. So Third Street would not stop currently, and then First and Second Avenue would. Southeast, this is.
and you prefer stop signs over yield signs just because it's more
Because then
clear.
it's clear. Then they have to stop. Right now, an uncontrolled intersection, you should yield to oncoming traffic. So it's already a yield, basically. It's just, there's no sign there.
So I'm in agreement, but what you're talking about with stop signs is that if you put stop signs where there are no stop signs, then people know they can just drive faster because they don't have to.
There's
work
that potential.
Yeah.
There is that potential, absolutely. So,
But they're not going to drive faster because there's not a stop sign there, because there is one on the other road.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're not going to see the stop sign on the other road. The people driving on the avenues,
Yeah.
you know,
and we
it's not
can,
like they're going to drive faster than they are now because there's not a stop sign there.
we can take a look at it as we go forward and we can always change it. You know, we can decide to remove them. We can decide to add more. We can make them 4 ways.
Yeah.
The options are there. It's just, we're going to do something that hasn't been done since the roads were put in.
Mhm.
So,
I like that concept more than doing the whole Third Street.
Third Street.
well, and the other,
It's a start.
my other thought with that is okay, now they still have to pay attention coming in or going out. Well, not so much going out, but coming in for those prior intersections. So hopefully they don't just go crazy.
Why wouldn't we put a 4-way stop at First Ave and Third? Or that accident was,
Second, you mean, like first.
Third Street.
First was where the accident was.
Yeah.
First and third.
There's a lot more gas if you stop.
If you stop on the hill, okay. Just on that,
Because I know we're gonna get complaints. We're gonna get complaints just by putting these stop signs in, I would imagine.
Typically, if you've got one busier street, you restrict the others.
I mean,
They restrict everybody.
it's one of those things you weigh out. Yeah, we're probably gonna get some complaints, but you know what? It's better than somebody getting really hurt.
Absolutely.
And especially for, yeah, we all live here. We all know that the southeast side of town doesn't have any stop signs, but I mean, if I'm understanding the last accident we had, both people were from out of town. When you don't live here,
Well,
the one,
They
Well,
were,
one
I
of them
wouldn't
was
say they
from,
didn't live in town, they were locals that one of
But
them was
still.
at least should
Yeah.
know.
I mean, for people that are not from here, I feel like,
Even not, I don't live in town. I forget that every time I go down there. The 3 or 4 times a year I drive in the southeast part of town.
So then the stop sign's gonna sneak up on you.
That we're used to seeing.
Mhm.
All right, well, I'll make that a motion to do stop signs on the north and south sides of the intersection of Third Street and First and Second Avenue.
Southeast.
Yes, so it's
I'll second that.
motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. All right, that was a graveyard smash. You're up, Jay. This isn't gonna be scary.
Could be. This is my scary face. I'm here, obviously representing Monster Bash. We have requested a variance, a building variance. We would like to extend our building to the north for a variety of reasons. One, we need a lot more additional storage space for large props, which we've been given many from the community, and we've built quite a few through the years. We've been doing this for 12 years, as most of you probably know. And the biggest complaint that we get from people who go through the haunt is, man, we really love this haunt, but we just kind of wish it was longer. And so the only way that we can make it longer and add the additional storage space that we need desperately is to build to the north. I had requested of the zoning board that we build actually to the property line. Current ordinance requires an 18-foot setback. And so I went to the neighbors, John and Jackie Ryan, who would have all the property to the north of our building. Said they love the fact that we purchased the building and have taken good care of the property, upgraded the property, and they felt that we actually have increased property values in the area because of the way we've taken care of the building since we purchased it. And they said we are absolutely willing to sign letters saying, yes, we are in agreement with them building right up to our property line. And they did so. On the January 3rd meeting of the zoning board, I made a request for the zoning variance. brought a kind of a scale model, not model, but a floor plan of the drawings that we were proposing for our addition. And at that time, the zoning board asked that we follow the proper procedure, which I was not aware of, I guess I'd forgotten, to fill out the application, make the $150 variance request fee, and then actually bring letters from those landowners who I referenced when I met with them. So at the August 7th meeting, when I came back, I provided the variance application and the fee, and also provided signed letters from landowners with adjoining properties, the Ryans and William McKernan. They, all of them saying, yes, we're absolutely okay with Monster Bash building right up to the property line. At that time, I was asked for drawings of the entire property with the current building and the proposed addition, and they set a public hearing. That public hearing was September 4th. I went there and provided the drawings of the Monster Bash land with the current building and the proposed addition based on a survey of the property that Monster Bash paid $500 for. The vote on the variance request was tabled pending my getting an easement agreement with the Ryan family. On the October 2nd meeting, I provided an easement signed by both John and Jackie Ryan and the Monster Bash Vice President Brian Berg. And then after a discussion with Greg, decided we needed to kind of rework that easement agreement because it didn't quite have everything that would protect Monster Bash, the Ryans, and the city should it ever get challenged. And so spoke with Greg about making those changes. And if we have Greg do it and we're not involved, it would be an additional $250 to $300 expense. The zoning board voted 4-1 against allowing our variance request. Most of the discussion from that evening, and I'll kind of defer to Jesse, make sure that I'm not speaking out of school here, was based on there was issues about how much traffic we might be bringing if we expanded our property and expanded the haunt, and fire safety, which I didn't feel that either of those issues really had anything to do with zoning, but those were the arguments that I received. Monster Bash has brought a lot of revenue to the community, not just to ourselves. Haunted Harmony was developed because of what we're doing, which brings in thousands of dollars to the business community since it was initiated. We also spend money in town locally at businesses, Kingston Mercantile, the IGA, I'm losing track, Solbert Welding, Quick Trip, that we've spent thousands of dollars there since we've been doing this. We've also given back almost $160,000 to support the arts programs within the school district, which is what we're set up to do. That's why we're here. And so I'm asking the council to reevaluate the recommendation from the zoning board and grant us the variance, which would allow us to add on to our building and build back to the property line, again, with the agreement of all families who are people who have property that adjoin our current property. After the zoning board met and voted, I did reach out to Greg and we spoke about this, and he confirmed that there's really nothing legally that would prevent the variance from being granted. It's a matter of people on the board, and please tell me if I'm speaking out of school from our conversation. I want to make sure that I'm addressing it correctly. He said there was nothing illegal about, nothing legally that would prevent this variance from being granted. And that if we had 3 different people on the zoning board, it could totally get a different vote based on what their interpretation was. And so I'm asking the council to grant us our variance request and allow us to build our building, which would be a 2-story addition, all the way back to the property line, again, with the agreement of all the local neighbors.
On the comments about there's a 3-part test for variances to be granted. So my comments are that if a body, whether it's planning and zoning or the council, can support those factors, that's when a variance can be granted. So it's in the broad context of, can a variance be approved? Certainly. That's why we have these rules in place. Can it be denied? Absolutely. If you don't meet those factors, then that's when it would be denied.
So that was part of the board was they couldn't answer all those questions with a yes. And specifically why. So that was part of the reason why. The other thing, and not just, there was a lot of discussion yesterday about fire safety, parking, flow of traffic, all of those things. But there was a discussion regarding, okay, Monster Bash, the front lot line is 0. It's, the building's right on the lot line. There's a 6 or 8 foot on each side, east and west, and now you would have a 0 lot line on the back side of the north, or the north side. So there was discussion related to that also.
Correct, that's correct.
Um,
And Ryan, again, granted,
which I did recommend to you to protect the Monster Bash, even if this variance wasn't granted for access purposes, in case that John Ryan's property is sold to somebody else and they wanted to shut you off, and then you're in a legal battle. That was a recommendation from me. So yes, that's kind of where we're at. Yes, the vote was 4-1, not to grant the variance of a 0 lot line to the rear or the north.
And I guess I would add that most people probably don't even know that that former alley is there, because they acquired that alley when the city vacated it. And so that's their property. So their property then goes to that line. It's not considered an alley anymore. That's considered their property. And then when we moved in, they had said, when we purchased the building, they had said, you can use it any way you want. You just don't block us in or out. And they've allowed us to utilize it. And they, we've been on both sides of that fence, good neighbors to each other the entire time. And like I say, most people wouldn't even realize that that former alley was even there. Nobody uses it. It's not a through alley. There are trees at the end of our building. You can't drive through there if you wanted to. Maybe on a bicycle. But the alley is basically not used by anyone except the Ryans and us. And like I say, they're absolutely okay with us building straight to the property. Those others, by the way, are in the file that the city council, that the city has.
So the other question, and I still haven't done it myself, is how far is John Ryan's building from your?
I went back there. I'm glad you got that, because I forgot about that. He built about 5 feet from the property line.
So it's 5 feet from your property
To
line
his
to his building.
To his building he added there a few years ago, yes.
So that was one of the other
And I
comments.
didn't know the answer to that when you asked.
And I didn't-
I was
I-
estimating, I said maybe 10 feet.
That's
I didn't
where
know.
I was too without measuring.
Yeah, and I went back and looked after you asked, and so it's not 5 feet.
So, correct, so is that like, that would?
So
because
his
it's John
building,
Ryan's property, that's his side,
yes.
so that would be a 6 foot setback.
Roughly
there.
5 feet, but roughly a 5 foot setback.
No, but I mean, the setbacks.
It's supposed to be 6 feet.
It should be 6 feet, so,
That's close, that's within the margin. of-
you know, that was built before the survey was done. We know actually where the lot line is now. That was a prior administrator a prior council, prior administrator that granted that building permit, so.
And one of the concerns was fire. So Johnson is the one who thought there was no problem with that being met, but then
Rod
there's
wasn't,
different opinions.
so I think and I'm gonna say this, my concern was not fire. My concern, and I don't think Rod's was, I mean, it's a concern, obviously, but when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at least me, and I'm gonna give my opinion on this, is I'm looking at the building structure, not the business that's in it. Because that business might not always be there. So we have to, from a planning and zoning aspect, I'm preparing for the future and what happens beyond if we grant this variance. And again, we couldn't answer the 3-part question, that it would meet all those requirements. So
What are those 3
Yeah,
questions? Top, bottom, what we haven't said.
Yeah, I can re-summarize them. So the first one is reasonable use of the property in a reasonable manner. This factor means that the landowner would like to use the property in a specific, reasonable way, but cannot do so under the rules of the ordinance. Does not mean that the land cannot be put to any reasonable use whatsoever without the variance. Secondly, that the landowner's situation arose out of circumstances unique to the property that are not caused by the landowner. The uniqueness generally relates to the physical characteristics of the piece of property, and economic considerations alone cannot create practical difficulties. And then third, if the variance was granted, that it would not alter the essential character of the locality. And so things like, would the structure seem out of place, out of scale, or otherwise inconsistent with surrounding areas? So findings for, that it meets those criteria or that it doesn't meet those criteria are what would decide whether a variance is granted or not.
So those three questions are for any variance in any given
Correct.
size or location of a city or use.
Yep.
Because Harmony ebbs and flows on what things look like being a small town.
So I think to the last question, the building isn't going to look out of place because he's going to build what's there. He's going to match the current structure, except that back part that he's tearing off. So that one you could probably answer that, yes, it would be fine. It would match the aesthetics of the area. I think the one that was the most difficult to answer was the second question, and that is read that question.
Circumstances unique to the property.
Yeah. Not created by the property owner was the other part of that, I think. And,
Right.
And that became the issue, I think, with a lot of it is by adding on and doing a zero lot line, Jay might be creating that issue.
So if he went shorter, that wouldn't be causing an issue? If he didn't go to the line, if there was no line? Like if
You
he
know,
didn't go all the way up
that's-
to it, if he went,
That's an option. I mean, that was one of my discussion points at planning and zoning is when we did the variance vote, we either did no variance approval, somewhere between 0 and 18, or you granted it to the 0. And the board,
The motion that was made was to
correct,
vote on it to the 0 line.
correct.
to the 0.
Do you have a timeline that you're hoping to construct? If
My
you're,
timeline would be at the end of this year's haunt, which we open this Friday. Please come, everyone. Would be after the haunt is over. We will want to empty out that back building, which was an addition years ago. And it sticks off to the west about 5-6 feet. We would take all of that building off. In the spring, we would pour concrete. And then the new building would match the original profile of the building. It wouldn't stick over towards Kernan's property like the current addition on the back does. It would just go straight back. It would mirror the original profile of the building.
And what is the distance of that?
Do you want,
Yeah, I got my drawings there, yeah.
they're right here.
You asked me. Okay, this is the north, so it would actually be, this would be this way, because the Ryans would be over here. So the dark gray is the existing building. If we went with the 18-foot setback, we would have 1 foot that we could come out here and go straight across. That's not enough of a gain as far as square footage to really justify that expense of putting up a new building.
The light gray is your current,
The light,
well,
though, the dark gray, wait a minute.
the dark gray is your.
I'm sorry,
proposed.
you are exactly right, I'm sorry, I'm looking at it upside down, okay.
All
The,
the,
the light gray is our current building. And so if we,
Okay.
thank you, Jesse, if we added a foot, we'd come across this way and we'd add this much and then a foot at the top. My request is to go all the way to what was at one time an alley, which is now part of the Ryan's property. And then there's trees at the end of that property. There's trees that go along this part of what was, again, the alley. So there's no way you can get through there. The only ones that go through here is Ryan's access this building, they said once or twice a year. We go in the back end of the building several times a year. And then McKernan's McKernan who has over here his renters, and he come in that alley and park in the back of that. So that's what it currently looks like. It would be, we would add on a foot here and come all the way across if we can't get the variance request. If we can, again, we go all the way to what was the alley, which would still give them full access to their property. It would give us access to ours. It's not a through alley, so nobody else is gonna be using it. It's just us and the Ryans that utilize it. Well, and Ricardo's
But
right.
you actually have, so is the easement in place now?
No, they signed an easement and then, Greg said, there's some things I'd like to add to that to protect the city, to protect Monster Bash and to protect the Ryans. So that everybody is protected if anyone should ever challenge it.
What's the
It
width
just-
of that easement?
I'm sorry.
What's the width of the easement from north to south?
It would be the access of the
The old alley.
the former alley, which is 10 feet wide. You know, if you want to just take a closer look at this or not.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, I think on properties where we have alleys, people can build pretty much right up to the alley. I don't-
My garage is on the alley.
There are those that are, and some of that is related to zoning rules.
It's very possible they were built prior to enforcement of the current zoning, or enactment of the current zoning, I should say, not
Okay,
enforcement.
so there's no
So they were
rule
grandfathered.
in the zoning for alleys, a different setback for alley properties.
I think the same rear setback should apply in residential areas. And it's different than commercial areas, industrial. Yeah, in residential, it's a shorter
Because
setback.
I think commercial and industrial are 15 and 30.
That's something like that's
Something
close,
like that.
correct, yeah.
And is the Monster Bash property?
R2,
R2, okay. Yep.
so it'd be residential, it's in a residential. And part of what that is that the zoning rule that this is falling under is from 1974.
Or
70
six,
something,
yeah.
because it goes back to when it was built.
And setbacks make a difference, whether you're talking the primary structure or accessory structures too. So sometimes you see different numbers and it's sometimes related to that. Like backyard sheds, for example, I think that's where the 6 foot applies oftentimes.
And I certainly understand the 18-foot setback if people's backyards and they're like grilling out and entertaining and things are going on in their backyards. It makes absolute perfect sense not to be able to build right to that property line. The Ryan's house is way up on the corner. They don't do anything back in this area where we're looking to make our addition. So it really, it wouldn't affect them. And that's why they were, in total agreement. So yeah, sure, build the property line. We're great with that.
And the board's concern, to preference that, was what if that property gets sold or that property gets split? Ryan's basically have 2 or 3 lots there.
Yeah.
Well, the easement would
The
remain.
easement would
The
be in
easement
place.
would
That
remain,
would
yes,
travel with the.
absolutely, but the concern is that if you build to a 0 lot line, that lot of Ryan's is buildable. If somebody wanted to, or change it, they tear down and build. Obviously, they'd have to reconfigure a few things because of the shed.
And
That
because
was,
of the easement, they wouldn't be able to build in the easement.
we can't build in the easement, but that would be a property line issue. Well, yeah, but that's only affecting the alley. So yes, that was part of the reason for the easement. But it's still a buildable lot, and that was the concern from the board, is the future. If Ryan's children decide to sell that and split it or whatever, that was kind of some of the discussion surrounding that.
And the example I gave with that discussion was my wife and I years ago were looking to buy a home in Harmony. We couldn't find one that met our needs. So we bought the woods out by the tree dump and by the gun range. We knew the gun range was there. We, looked at that and talked about that before we bought the property. This would be the same situation. Someone who's looking to buy that property would know that that building is there and know that it goes to the property line. It would be their option. Okay, do we want to buy this and build a home there if that's what we're looking at? Or do we look at a different space? If we're there, they have that option. And that's what we did. We bought the land out there hoping to build a house, and then 2 months later, we found the house we live in now, so.
guess one of my thoughts is, if he executes the easement, which he's already kind of spent all the time and effort, it sounds like it's ready to sign. And with that, do you think the zoning board would look at that differently or consider that?
No.
Um,
That was, the easement was, we talked about it at zoning. And really the easement didn't have, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, I don't think the easement had any bearing on what the decision was.
I would say you're probably right, which kind of befuddled me because at the meeting prior to that, I was told, get an easement and we'll look at this. And I went and got the easement and it was like, well, this doesn't matter. Well, no, why was I asked to get it?
Well, again, that was me. And I will say that I did it more so to protect the Monster Bash because in the future, and that was my suggestion because of that. And if the variance would have gone through, that you're protected and you have access to the back of your building in the future also. This has nothing to do with Ryan's, it has to do with the future of that and protecting you is my,
Okay. I just didn't understand why I would say, well, we're not gonna do a vote on this until you get a variance or an easement, I'm sorry. And so I did, and it was like, it didn't matter. I was like, then, okay, I understand what you're saying.
and I understand where you're coming from too with, hey, I went and got this easement that shows good faith and I got nothing for it,
Right.
you know, I
Yeah,
get
I
that.
mean, we've invested $650 in trying to get this variance passed with the application fee and the requested
Survey.
survey. Thank you. I was kind of going blank there. And, then I went and got the easement signed and I felt like I was fulfilling every request that the zoning board had made. And
And I would
in
say,
the end, it
that you
didn't
were.
matter.
And I would say that you were, absolutely. And you're right. But in the end, it didn't matter. They didn't look at,
Right.
we didn't look at the majority of that. We went back to the factors at hand. The survey was probably, in my opinion, was the best thing you did. So that we had a good sense of what we were talking about. Yes.
Understood.
Of course, I'm
I guess
not,
my point is, there's a reason to have a variance process. And to me, it's dead space back there that no one utilizes. No one hardly even knows it's there. To me, this is the perfect example of why you would grant a variance.
And the other thing I'm going to preference with the board is we made some discussion regarding allowing, if we allow 1 0 lot line variance, then do we have to allow others? And the answer is no, but you set a precedence and people are going to challenge you more if you do that.
but no,
We don't have to,
yes,
and we can,
I guess it is a precedent because you've done it,
correct,
but it doesn't mean,
that you have to.
It's on a case by case basis.
It's still a
What
case
I
by
was
case.
told.
It is, absolutely. But it's harder once you allow that to
Defend
happen.
it. I get it.
Can the public ask questions? Lisa's got a question.
yes, I'll allow a question.
Thank you. Jay, can I ask you a question? Now, both of the property owners, McCurden and the Ryans, they both said that they are okay with you going right up to the lot line, correct?
Correct.
So they know what they could possibly be giving up on the resale of that property, right?
Correct.
I'm assuming so. Having learned more about it, in my opinion, I think that, the city needs to keep control of things. It would be different if those two property owners, in my opinion, would not be in favor of this. They would not want that variance up to the property line. But if they both knowing, apparently, they bought that property, they have to be semi-smart about it. And I'm assuming if they wrote letters saying that they're okay with it, and they know that the ramifications down the road for them selling something might bring the value down to future home buyers, they're willing to take that risk, or perhaps like in the Ryan's case, they might think, well, maybe Monster Bash 10 years from now will end up buying that lot. I don't know, but. it
Okay,
just seems
we're gonna
to be-
move along, because you asked
Okay,
a
sorry.
question.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
I didn't turn it into public meeting.
that's not gonna be.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I think other people may have been.
what?
Are
Oh,
we
yes.
turning it into a public meeting or what?
No, I allowed one question, and then it got into commentary, so I stopped. Okay. The, I'm just thinking now, if he's gonna have the 10-foot easement and he has 28 feet besides that, that's 38 feet. It seems like there would be room. What's that?
Nobody can build in that 10-foot easement. That's Ryan's property. He's
Right.
building up to his property line. If he had
Right,
granted this.
nobody can, yeah, but I'm saying if the zoning board is worried about the amount of space that's accessible behind that building, the easement is gives accessibility to the building. The question in my head is, do you think the zoning board would fudge on the 18 feet knowing there's 10 foot of easement?
Do you mean like-
Zoning board, so I'm
I
asking
don't
you
know, I
specifically.
don't know that without them here. I think that there is a possibility that,
I mean, was that the
The vote-
discussion, is the accessibility to the back
that
of the
was,
building?
it really wasn't the accessibility. That was me saying, if you go to the 0 lot line, or even if you go 5 feet back, you still have that access that was protecting everybody in this venture. As far as if you change the footage of the variance, if you say, okay, I'm asking for, I'm gonna have a buffer of 6 feet from the lot line, for example, I don't know, maybe it would be a different vote. I don't know the true answer to that, and I don't want to speak for anybody else on the board. But I think that that discussion may change people's minds. I don't know.
So that would also require a variance, just a different
Correct.
amount of space.
And I think, Greg, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that something that we can discuss here, and, because we've done no variance, basically.
Yeah, I would think if you granted a 12-foot variance, 10-foot, 6-foot, something different is being requested, you know, to stay focused on the rules you're following with granting variance, you want to articulate why that makes a difference and changes the analysis to approve it versus denying it. But yeah, people had notice of this, had a chance to show up at the public hearing, and nobody expressed concern. So I don't think you're prejudicing anybody if you approve it at 6 feet or 10 feet instead of 0, for example.
Because Jay did bring the letters of support from the following neighbors, and then there is, the Monster Bash in general does a good thing for the community. I don't think anybody is discrediting that. I think the board struggled with not what's going on in the building, but what the building is doing, you know, that we're gonna add to the 0 lot line. At least that's where I struggled.
Well, I think the business before us is either accepting the recommendation of the zoning board to deny the variance, or to allow it, or to adjust it.
Correct. You have
So I'd entertain a motion for any one of those 3. Just so people know, I'm going to be abstaining from the vote because I'm on the Monster Bash board. So I don't like abstaining, but.
I know you don't.
If I may just interject one other thing before you vote. After, the day after, the zoning board met and denied our request for a variance, I went and spoke with the Ryans. And they said to me, if you can get the zoning board, the council, whoever, to agree to a 9-foot setback, we would strongly consider selling you the alley. Well, I'm sorry, there 10 feet of their property that wasn't the vacated alley, if I'm being politically or totally correct, which would then allow us the 10 feet for the alley and then the 9 feet for the variance, and we could actually put our building in the exact location that we wanted to put it in originally. So it would only be a 9-foot setback plus the 10 feet of the width of the alley. So
So,
we would still have a 19-foot from,
correct. So what I'm gonna say to that is if that happened, we don't need a variance.
yes, I would. Because
If you
the alley is only 10 feet wide.
correct.
So if we build up to that alley, we're still only 10 feet off their property line.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we would, so they.
I
so
thought
they-
you were staying back from
No,
your property.
So, no, and so what I'm saying is,
You're
if
just
we,
saying
if
you would own it rather than
we,
it being
correct,
leased.
we would own that 10-foot wide former alley that, and if the council would then allow us a 9-foot variance as opposed to the 18 that I was asking for, we could put our building where we wanted to, and we would still be,
Did-
off the, quite a few feet off of the property line.
You'd be technically.
And then what I told them was we would grant them an easement just like they were going to grant us
You just
with full access.
flip that easement.
So our name, instead of their name at the top of the easement and our second, we would flip flop those. And then they would have full access. And we could build where we need to and only get a 9-foot setback opposed to the 18, which is currently on the books. So I just want to, I just want to be transparent. I didn't want to have you guys perhaps vote on a shorter variance and then say, oh, by the way, our property's changing, so we'll take that 9-foot too. I want to be totally transparent and honest with everybody. So they said if we could get a 9-foot variance, they would sell us that 10-foot of alley space, former alley space. So in essence, we'd be 10 feet, no, we'd be 11 feet off of their property line as opposed to 18.
But
Well,
then
well, I think, and Greg may know more on this, and I'm sure you do. I'm kind of thinking, we as a council, wouldn't make much sense to do a 9-foot variance now, knowing that property might be changing hands and easements might or might not be coming. So my thoughts with the new information is to send you back to the drawing board to come up with a plan and reapproach the zoning, planning and zoning, and try to get a favorable ruling there. But that's just my
I
single
spoke to
opinion.
Greg before the meeting.
I want to hear Greg's opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the council can grant a variance and attach conditions. So for example, if you liked that Plan B, I will label it, it could be approved only on the condition that he actually acquires that 10 feet, for example. And you could take care of it now and set him out to do that and wait to issue it until that's been proven to have happened. That's one option. Or the other option would be what Steve's saying, basically let it be denied based on the recommendation of planning and zoning and try again with the variation on previous plan.
In which case, I start at square one, start all over again. basically.
Well, so I know the zoning board has in the past, and things with this, waived the variance application fee because it's an ongoing process, is what I would say. So, yes, it might be coming back, and we might have to do a public hearing, we might have to do things. I'm not saying that's what's gonna happen, Jay, I'm just going through it all. To let everybody know, more transparency, I guess, than anything. But yes, you're correct, it may, if the other doesn't happen, it would come back.
Start all over again.
Theoretically, yes, start all over again.
But I'd be in favor of waiving the variance fee again.
Correct.
Application fee.
Well, it's kind of an ongoing process or continuation of the same issue.
But a shorter timeline, I guess, too, being that there's already information known. Though I like the proposal that you made. That's a variance I would consider. There's a lot of detail there, though, that I'm not sure how that would look in a motion for all these contingency plans to be met. I mean, if you want to walk us through again,
I'd
and
be
they're in the
happy to.
minutes, and then that's a
I
potential
would be
motion we
happy to.
made, I guess we can do that. But
The motion would in essence be to grant a 9-foot variance contingent on Monster Bash acquiring the vacated alley, which is now part of the Ryan's property, which is 10 feet wide. It's that simple. Because if you agree on that 9-foot variance, we acquire the property. It could be, we could eliminate a lot more steps as opposed to going back to square one and having me go to the zoning board, make my appeal. They, have their discussion and vote, then has to come back to a city council meeting again. I mean, I started this on January 3rd. We could conceivably still be doing this a year later, which is kind of, I personally, I think that's kind of silly. Where it could be basically determined, okay, if you don't acquire that property, you don't get the variance. You guys can decide that based on the motion.
Why a 9-foot variance versus a 10-foot? I guess is my question, the width of the alley, because that would still get you,
Well, we would purchase the alley, so that would allow us to, so the original, right now, we're 18 feet away from where we want to build.
Correct.
Okay, so if we buy the alley, that gets us 10 feet, so we're only 8 feet away from where we want to build. So a 9-foot variance allows us, we'd still have a foot that we wouldn't be taking, but that would allow us to go right to the current property line. They would have the 9-foot variance that you would grant, plus there'd be an extra foot that we aren't utilizing, so basically we would be 10 foot off of their property line.
So in essence, he's saying that the 9-foot variance is changing the setback
From 18 to 9,
18 to 9.
right, basically.
correct, I understand that portion, if you're trying to get to 18 feet, I don't understand why you're asking for a 9-foot
Oh,
variance versus
okay,
a 10-foot.
okay, I could ask for 8,
You could,
because we're getting the 10 from the alley, and they're asking, and so it's another 8 feet to be the property. I was just trying to say, okay, the setback was 18, let's split the difference, put it in the middle, that's why I jumped on 9, that's the only reason I did that.
that's fine.
If somebody's gonna make a motion, so a 10-foot setback versus the 18-foot.
Correct, from the property line.
Actually, it would be 10, yeah, make sure.
That's what I was getting
Okay,
at.
I see what you're saying.
And I think that's plenty of discussion. So I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion with everything that Jay just said. That was in there, the 10-foot setback.
Everything?
With the 10-foot.
So that's gonna
Plan
be
B.
Plan B.
to
Plan B.
allow a variance.
Yes.
Of
Pending,
Pending
10-foot
they get,
10 feet.
they purchase the
pending
land.
the transfer of property or
Yeah.
purchase of property from Ryan's.
Correct,
Of the
yes.
former vacated alley, which is 10 feet wide.
I'll second that.
Greg, is that a workable motion?
To maybe to head off any other problems, I would maybe specify the length that you don't want it just the same width as Monster Bash's property. You probably want it to go a little bit further down so that even at the corner of the building, right? If you're talking 10 feet, just keep that in mind.
They own the entire.
Right.
They own from street.
Well, you could buy the whole length if they're willing to sell it, but I'm
Yeah.
saying make sure you get at
It
least
would
enough
be the
length.
entire- It would be the
Oh,
entire
length.
length.
They're gonna-
That would
yeah.
take care of the
The
problem.
way, that's the way I understood it. Is
Yes,
you're
it
gonna,
would be the entire length to the street. I'm
They would
sorry,
own-
I didn't
Okay.
specify that.
I guess I took it that
The
way.
purchase,
building.
And then you would,
what's the variance? Is the variance going the whole length of the?
no, it would be
Just-
only
just
for the
our
property.
Variance is only going to apply to the building proposed addition right now.
The
So,
building addition?
yeah,
right? Okay.
yeah.
It's not on the property.
right.
Right, but it would only encompass their property. It wouldn't go to the street.
Correct, would only encompass.
We
the
can't,
building.
because we don't own that.
Yeah,
Correct.
they went
but
over
it-
that.
Sorry.
No, there's gonna be a 6-foot, because they're gonna, 6 or 8 feet, whatever it is,
Yeah.
on the sides.
Right.
Sorry, I led you down a tangent you didn't need to go to now that I realize he's buying the whole length. I thought if you just stopped at his property corner, you'd be short right at the corner.
Right.
Okay,
Anyway,
it's the
yeah.
entire alley, yeah. Or former alley, so.
So the motion is second.
We have motion to second. Any further discussion?
No.
All right, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Myself.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Lost your imagination.
Sorry for the long drawn out process.
It is what it is, you know, I mean, we gotta cross the Ts and dot the Is and.
Correct.
So, we ended up where we wanted to be, that's all that matters. Thank you.
And of course, it's contingent.
Of course.
Yes.
Contingent.
Understood.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay. Inspection payment recommendation.
So so we have, since we've changed a little bit, and how planning and zoning operates. Currently, Jimmy Strozik goes out when we get a building permit application in. He goes out and inspects the property to make sure it meets the setbacks. He does some measuring, he does those things. So he spends some time out in the field doing those things. So there was a recommendation from planning and zoning to give him a stipend for each time that he does that. And the recommendation from planning and zoning was to give him $25 per inspection. We talked about a flat rate, but if you have no zoning permits or you have doesn't match. So that's why we went with basically the same amount that you get per meeting.
I'll make that a motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
And that's for anybody, like.
Yeah, anybody that
Not
does
on
it,
there,
yep, absolutely. For whoever does the inspection.
So
$25
charge
flat.
$25 for a permit, then you gotta pay him $25 to go.
Not all permits are $25 are based off square footage.
Yeah, Monster Ash was 150.
So,
That was variance.
but we may have to revisit our
Fee structure.
fee structure on that.
Any other discussion? The city doesn't make money. Hearing no further discussion, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Building and maintenance.
See the wastewater treatment report from Rick. Obviously the kitchen stove in the area has been installed and connected and ready to go
Operation.
for breakfast with Santa, so it can be used or whoever wants to use it prior to that.
I'll be bringing
It has been used. Pretty sweet.
And then Brian, do you want to talk about the safe step sidewalk
I
recommendation?
can a little bit, yeah. You guys remember when we went over that, had the company come look at them. So basically, I met with Jesse and Kyle and they decided for now, they just wanted to do 12 hazards on Main Street that we'd like to have saw cut that are 5/8 or over trip hazards. And then we'll look at the job they did and see if we want to do more in the spring. But the 5/8 was kind of the cutoff we wanted to use for now. So the total would be the $1,752. And then there's more panels that were marked for replacement that we're gonna look at in the spring as a committee.
Good, I like that. I'll make that a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to do the proposed repairs for the safe step.
And they are gonna be in the area in the next couple of weeks, he said. So they're
Was that,
Do they do any mud jacking?
no, they don't.
They don't.
was that also looking at the water lines or any sort of metal pieces that stick up in sidewalks in that area?
I didn't see any in that stretch in Center Street or whatever.
Yeah. Will those be dealt with at all?
No, this, look at them case by case.
Okay, I've got a couple comments on the ones by the grocery store.
What is
now.
the solution for those? Would you build a little mound around them or
Well, sometimes
cut them
you
out?
can
and-
Get them to pound down, but, or cut them off, flush them.
Because that's not the water pipe, it's just the piece
Wow.
that the pipe is in.
Like the one with the bank, the one by the bank, I think the pipe itself needs to be cut off. It's sticking up. One of the ones by the grocery store, I think the cut flat and made it work for winter.
Did we do the vote on that?
No,
Yeah.
Nope,
no,
not yet.
we didn't vote.
All right,
The first, yes.
call for the vote on the 1,700 repair job. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Okay, EDA,
There actually is an action item that should be dealt with the minor land acquisition.
say that again.
There's an action item we should probably deal with, you guys should deal with on the minor land acquisition in the industrial park. Yeah, so there's EDA, I can give a recap for people real quick. EDA held a public hearing on the prospective sale of 2 lots in industrial park, 2 minor underground. The lots just north of where Twin Cities Trimmer is, plus part of the Keeney land we bought most recently. So there's a purchase agreement drafted and development agreement drafted that the EDA approved and made a recommendation to the council that we proceed with that sale. The structure of it would be $100,000 sale price with 50 of it paid in cash at closing and the other 50 captured through TIF. That TIF district that was set up for the prior owner of that lot is still active technically. So we won't get a full 10 years. But before Chris departed, he felt that based on their project plans, that the building would be substantial enough that the tax revenue from that would make up that difference. So we're operating a little bit on just suspicion because we never did get a quote from the assessor's office on what they thought that building would be valued at and what it would be taxed at. But we were going off our best guess for the comparables based on square footage and usual tax values. So the conditions with that would be that they enter into a development agreement promising to have the building built by the end of 2025. So it might start much soon, it might start this year yet, but at least they wouldn't be required to have it done until the end of next year. And they'd be required to pay their taxes and not object to the assessed value, pay any special assessments that come up and the usual stuff that we have in those agreements. So that was the recommendation from the EDA. And I think traditionally we've had the council, vote and bless those, endorse those after the EDA is done them, if I recall correctly.
I would make a motion to approve the sale of that land with those conditions.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the sale of the land to miners underground with the stipulations stated. Any other discussion? I would say it's a great project. They're gonna employ quite a few people too, so that's a good project to have in time. Call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. No other action for the EDA.
Rumor is that they did do the bidding on the second part of the trail, but we have not heard yet who would have been a successful bidder. So more to come on that soon, hopefully.
Park board,
Didn't meet.
Didn't meet next week.
library board,
No new updates.
arts board,
How'd they meet?
Sorry,
You meet this week?
Parks Board, we meet this week. They're Thursday, yep, discussing the Paint Your Pet event. Again, it's not the Paint Your Actual Pet, but on a mural. And we're discussing holiday lighting contests, so get your lights out.
all right. I have one item. I would like the council to consider a motion of support for the Fillmore Central School levy. I think having a school in town is very important. and I would make that a motion.
One second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second motion I would like to make is a declaration of appreciation for the service to the city that Steve Sagan provided in his years as a council member and EDA member.
Second.
We're very appreciative. A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Planning and zoning, we need to appoint a chair.
They did, just
They
an
did.
update,
Well, so we have a recommendation for a chair,
recommendations, sorry.
Okay,
which is myself to chair the meetings. We did not select a vice chair, and that will be probably revisited in January again.
all right.
So,
I don't know if we need a motion for that, but I'll make a motion to accept Jesse as the chair of the planning and zoning board.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
abstain.
Motion carries.
I do have one thing for the fire department. We are having the National Fire Prevention Open House tomorrow from 6 to 8 at the fire hall. We are doing a program about 7. So bring your kids, hot dogs and beverages and things will be provided. I think we're doing car
You
extrication
get
too.
gifts and trinkets too, don't you have?
Yep, gifts and trinkets, and you get to watch us cut apart cars.
Right.
Ooh,
So,
sometimes I get to walk around the equipment,
always walk around the equipment.
climb all over.
Did Andrea have
It's a
anything
standard.
for the chamber?
Oh, why do I always skip over the chamber? Does chamber have any? report?
He wanted to be done, that was what it was.
Our membership drive is happening now. If you didn't get an invite to join or renew, hit us up. We'll make sure you get one. All fall and holiday events are moving forward as planned. And trunk or treat, we're still looking for more people to participate. So it's not just businesses and organizations. It can also be individuals. Some people don't maybe live in a trick or treat area, or they're going to be gone for the 31st. So this would be a chance for you to decorate your trunk and hand out candy to the kiddos.
And chamber members can join from anywhere, right? So a lot of out-of-town businesses belong to
Yes,
the
and we
Harmony
do have-
Chamber.
Yep, we do have some neighboring businesses part of the chamber.
And individuals can join that don't have businesses,
Yes,
right?
and organizations.
Do you know how much the membership is for individuals?
25? Was it 25?
I think it's 25 for individuals and it's 50 for families. That's a new thing last year. And then we've got an early bird kind of discount going on if you join before October 31st for organizations and businesses. So.
All right.
I have 2 things.
Okay.
We're gonna, city staff is gonna go around and look at, we have a lot of ash trees that are dead, that are in need of some attention. So city staff is gonna go around and look and identify which trees need that attention and then send letters to those individuals, giving them a period of time to get them removed. And then we did take delivery of the leaf vac and it was approved by the city staff to continue that program with that new leaf vac.
So do we have time to go out
For the,
a phone call or something?
for the leaf vac?
Yeah.
Yes, for leaf pickup, once the leaves,
We'll send
Yes.
out a notify.
yep, we'll do all the notifications as normal.
And we don't have to set a 2 week.
You better talk to the city staff about that. It should be probably a little bit longer. It's a little bit where we don't have to take it on and off the truck. So there may be more than 2 weeks, but I'm not gonna say that there's gonna be more than 2 weeks.
We'll iron out the details.
There you go.
Anybody else have anything? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.
Minor underground.
Correct. They're going to, so they.
Fiber work.
Underground drilling for conduits, electrical. They're gonna build.
I hope so.
Storage.
I hope so.
Nope, they're just for their stuff. Oh, so it's gonna be like